Hey everybody, JJ Starwind is here. Yes, I actually changed the name on the YouTube channel. It was JJ Wilson, but I mean my old intros will probably say JJ Wilson, but I'll make a new one eventually. We'll change that up soon. Don't know how soon, but it will be soon. So yeah, I just went and decided to make the name change. Since I noticed we had new YouTube handles now, like at whatever it is that you wanted to change up. So I was like, you know what, I might as well just change it. And that's why I did the name change along with the handle. Now it's JJ Starwind, so there you go. But going into this topic here, just finished watching this anime that was recommended to me by a sub of mine, fellow sub Gaming Geek 11. Shout out to you. He told me about the anime, and I think somebody else did too, saying that it was surprisingly good. I believe it was Morpheus, so shout out to him as well. Yeah, so I went ahead and finally watched it about a month and a half ago, like October sometime. Took my time with it. I wasn't in a rush to try to finish it off or anything in one day. But yeah, it was actually pretty good. I wasn't gonna say it was amazing, but it was pretty good. I can't even lie. It was definitely better than what I saw with the clips on YouTube, with the actual video game itself. So obviously, if you heard about the game Cyberpunk 2077, that was my car. Sorry about that. So if you heard about the video game Cyberpunk 2077, you also heard about the anime series, which was based off the game that was made by CD Projekt Red. So this was kind of like a spin-off to that. So it wasn't based on the main character in the game. It was based on the life of a teenager, a very troubled teenager by the name of David Martinez, Latino male living in Night City, the same city as the game, in the free state of California. So now this city, I'm not sure if this is like LA or San Francisco and it just changed up. Or it could just be a brand new city that they made years later. And now it's like this huge city. Probably the biggest in America or something. But that's where David lives. And so he's going to this fancy school owned by, I hope I get the company right, Akasura. Let me double check that. No, I was wrong. Arasaka. Yeah, the company's called Arasaka. So he's going to school, he's doing okay, but he's not really applying himself all that much, because the school that he's in is like for rich kids, and he's not a rich dude. David Martinez, he's not a rich guy. And so his mother, Gloria, is working her butt off to try to keep him in this fancy school, because she knows how smart and how articulate her son is, right? So she sends him to the school so he can actually, one day work for a prestigious company like Arasaka. And unfortunately, he's having a tough time because he's getting bullied by a bunch of these rich kids, and they have the cyberpunk tech that he doesn't have. So he's kind of a regular right now. And the very beginning of the episode, he's just getting embarrassed, man. He got into a fight with one of these dudes, and it's just he got handled righteously, right? Until he got a hold of this super tech, and it was a doctor by the name of Ripper Doc that gave him the spec. And apparently it was something that it was kind of top secret stuff, and he wasn't supposed to have that, right? He wasn't supposed to have that. And I think as the series went on, I think by the second episode, that's the part where, spoiler, he ends up losing his mom, because they figured out where that tech was, and it was inside him. Right? So, I mean, right from the get-go, it was already tragic for this dude, because he ended up losing his mom. So there's a spoiler right there. And so now he's kind of fending for himself, and he's not able to really afford the place that he's at, his mom's place, because, obviously he's a teenager. He can't really work anywhere yet. Until he meets the very people that were after this chip that he put inside his body, these implants or whatever. And they're cyberpunks. That's hence the title of the series, Cyberpunks. And the leader of that group was named Maine. And to keep from getting killed and, basically deleted by these folks, Dave was just like, I know how to use this stuff, man. Like, this thing's giving me super speed. I was able to beat the dude that embarrassed me earlier in that school. You might as well let me keep this and let me work for you guys. Because I already know how to use this stuff, you know? And, you know, eventually, the leader, Maine, he was kind of like hard to get. He was a cool character. But, of course, you know, spoiler, he has to die too eventually, you know? And it kind of foreshadows like how his life was before he became a cyberpunk, so to speak. It's like, man. But yeah, he had a crew, you know, he had Doris, he had Pilar, he had Rebecca and Falco and Kiwi. Like those were the characters that were all part of his crew. And then the special one, like their most trusted asset on the crew was Lucy. And so this was like an older chick. And I think she and David met in the third episode. Correct me if I'm wrong. They met in the third episode. And this is basically, that's how the cyberpunks found out about David's special chip inside of him from Lucy, because they tracked the very person that they were looking for, and it was David. But she didn't tell him that until he ended up getting assaulted by these guys. Because at that same episode, if I remember, Lucy was telling David that her dream was to go to the moon, because they started hanging out and around that time. And I think Lucy was the first person that David said, like, I can help you get the information that you guys need, or what she needed, right? Because after all, she was like older than him, and obviously she was a hot looking girl. And so that's kind of how they hit it off so good. And from that point on, by the time Maine died, like they were actually a couple at that point. So another spoiler alert. So they end up like romantically getting involved in things like that, despite David being younger than her. But yeah, those are the cyberpunks. And let me talk about a little bit about Faraday, who works for Militech, if I'm not mistaken. Right, so this is the handler. Like this is kind of like the person that gave the contract work for Maine and his cyberpunks to carry out certain missions for him, so they could get paid and whatnot. That's kind of how they make their living. They're like mercenaries basically. So Faraday, you know, he's a very, very shrewd individual, and he kind of told, you know, guys like David, like the young kid, like how Night City is. Like it's not a place for the young and the innocent to kind of just do whatever they want to do. Like you got to really hustle and grind to get to where you need to be in life and things like that. But man, but after Maine's death, I mean, this is probably the one thing that kind of, I ain't gonna say it rubbed me the wrong way, but it kind of had me scratching my head. So eventually David becomes the leader of the cyberpunks right after Maine died, because he basically, right when Maine got killed, David took over his implants. And so he cyberized himself through the help of the doctor, Ripper Doc, up until, I think it was like the 7th episode or the 8th episode. That's when he got ripped. And all of a sudden, he's like this young kid, and now he's got the body of a grown man already, like at maybe like a year or two. And he's already a leader of the cyberpunk crew. And I'm like, dang, that was quick. Like, how you get to be, you knew nothing about the cyberpunk lifestyle, and then all of a sudden you're the leader of the crew. And then at the same time, Lucy decides to no longer become a netrunner, because that was her job. She could dip into cyberspace and crack codes, you know, based on her AI, you know. It's like her AI self and her real self kind of working together in the cyber world to get codes of certain, you know, research and things like that. So that was her title, Netrunner. It was actually 2 netrunners. It was her and her mentor, Kiwi, who later betrayed him. Through Faraday. So that's another spoiler too. I'm like, man, that's kind of one thing that kind of bugged me, is like David went up these ranks way too quick. I know he was getting experience from all the other people in the cyberpunk team to try to learn the ways of being a cyberpunk and mercenary lifestyle work, but like it's like, dang, how you get to be from here to there, and then one of your more experienced members, and Lucy, just up and decide to no longer do it because she had an episode, and I forget the character's name, that kind of hacked into her brain and pretty much tricked her. And she discovered some things, I'm not going to mention what it is, you got to watch the show, that kind of frightened her to the point where she didn't want to get involved in net running anymore. So I'm just going to leave it at that. So man, like That's kind of the only thing that kind of bugged me, because I think the writers and the developers noticed that as well with David. And at the very end, he meets the top like soldier slash mercenary in Arasaka in Adam Smasher. What a name, Smasher, right? And I'm not gonna mention what happens next, but it's not pretty. I'll just put it that way. That's like at the very tail end of the episode. So I know I spoiled a bunch already, but yeah, I mean, if you're in the type of animes where it's like real edgy and you want to see nude, you want to see guys just cuss each other out over and over again, flame each other, roast each other, then yeah, I think you like Cyberpunk a lot. It was definitely a lot of twists and turns in this anime that I kind of wasn't expecting at all, especially at the tail end with Fire Diary betraying the Cyberpunk team to try to move up into the Militech world, so to speak. So I'm like, man, I mean, if you're into that type of stuff, I think you'll enjoy it. If not, then yeah, this may not be the anime for you. I'm not going to give it a score per se, but yeah, I would say it was one of the better animes of the year, but I don't think it will be the anime of the year. But it was definitely one of the better ones in my opinion. But tell me what you guys thought about the show. If you also watched Cyberpunk Edgerunners, let me know what you think in the comments and everything. And until next time, I will see you all later. This is JJ Starwind, and I'm out.